Welcome to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcasts.
In this podcast, we'll talk about the possibility of having every human genome on Earth sequenced before the end of this century, including yours. Interested? Stay with us.
Genome sequencing, that is, being able to reach each letter of our DNA code, has become faster, cheaper, and easier than ever.
While sequencing a full human genome would cost about 100 million euros in 2001, it can now be done in less than a day, and for less than 500 euros.
Yes, you heard it well, and that's thanks to the development of modern sequencing techniques.
But genome sequencing is not just a thing of the future. Governments and private companies worldwide have been collecting personal DNA profiles in genomic databases for health and forensic purposes. These present opportunities as well as challenges.
The UK government's database hosts forensic DNA profiles of over 6 million detainees, the US being one of over 9 million. But they have both been accused of racial bias since most of the samples come from males of ethnic minorities.
Questions of data privacy and human rights also loom over China's profiling of more than 40 million citizens, including people from ethnic minorities.
And companies offering genetic testing for genealogy and health purposes are mushrooming all over the world, adding to the already existing public databases to foster knowledge on human evolution and research into rare diseases.
This brings to the forefront ethical and legal questions on data privacy and ownership. So, let's consider the implications.
It's clear that a world genetic database would revolutionise preventive medicine, research, and the treatment of common and rare diseases.
Imagine there was a way to figure out exactly who is likely to develop cancer, heart disease, or Alzheimer's, and what drives the development of it before the disease even manifests.
Some people have already made decisions based on this likelihood.
Back in 2015, when actor and United Nations Special Envoy Angelina Jolie discovered that she carried the BRCA1 gene mutation, which increased her chances of developing breast cancer, she decided to undergo a double mastectomy to eliminate this risk.
By analysing many people's DNA, scientists can discover specific gene variants that may predispose them to specific conditions, or that make it more or less likely for them to respond to a specific treatment. This is the power of genomics on a large scale.
This is great, but it could also bring about new forms of surveillance, discrimination, and power imbalances. So in a world where everyone's genome is sequenced, clear legal frameworks defining who has access to the data and who owns it would need to be set up to prevent abuses and discrimination.
For example, employee recruitment based on disease risk, universities selecting students with the highest IQ potential, or insurance companies charging higher rates to people with unfavorable genetic traits.
What's clear is that establishing such guidelines and legal safeguards will require interdisciplinary ethical bodies with experts in legal, societal, and medical fields.
And as genetic data has become a source of profit for certain companies, future laws will need to differentiate between commercial and public health interests.
Balancing data privacy concerns and the potential for innovation will also be tricky. Overly restrictive laws on accessing genetic data may protect us against discrimination, but may curtail research into novel medical approaches.
But the EU is not starting from scratch. Here's Louisa Antunsch from the European Parliamentary Research Service.
Legislation needs to adapt to the fast pace of technological change in genetics. The General Data Protection Regulation, also known as GDPR, governs the processing of personal data of all EU citizens, including the genetic data. It's a good starting point to develop policies on the protection of the ownership as well as the privacy of our genetic data. The European Commission is now presenting a regulation to set up the European Health Data Space. This proposal supports individuals to take control of their own health data and supports the use of health data for better research, innovation, and policy making. The new Artificial Intelligence Act will also play a key role, since digital health extends to personal genetic data.
EU legislation will also need to address the international impacts of sequencing all human beings.
Without international agreements on the use of genetic data, we run the risk of countries with fewer regulations offering loopholes for more heavily regulated business sectors in the EU.
So there's still a lot to consider, and we'll be following the debate.
Want to know more? Check out Louise's full policy brief on the EPRS website or in our app.
This is a European Parliamentary Research Service podcast.
Thanks for listening.